From the coalition standpoint, again, talking around domestic and sexual violence, if we were going to end violence against women, girls, and people who are gender nonconforming, we needed to address the majority of who's causing that harm, which is men. However, we also know that not all men are going to be violent, physically, sexually, emotionally, or verbally violent. So we do have the belief that by engaging young men through the reproductive health education, it's a touch point and an avenue for us to engage young men through education that's going on around their bodies and have a deeper conversation around what it means to be a man or in manhood, healthy masculinity. So we wanted to really, this touch point of engaging young men through medically accurate information. We also have had the ability, because of our partner at Health and Welfare, to kind of also stretch out the conversations to include healthy manhood / masculinity. And so we've included at the end of the presentation today, we had been asked to do 3 curriculum adaptions, and we'll share a little bit more about those towards the end, and how we utilize those 3 additional curriculum adaptions to further the conversation around healthy manhood, and where these young men are going to go back out to their communities. So I think in transitioning, we have the pivot that Brian described of our organization. Overarching, we have come to kind of 5 port keys, because a lot of us here are Harry Potter fans. We call them buckets. But these 5 kind of areas of where we've been engaging community, and this is, again, outside of the Wise Guys contract and program. This is around the state of Idaho itself. So this first card was convened with community-based partners from around the state, and we've come to these questions. So Brian, when both of us, when we convene our Wise Guys groups, we often start in circle. The idea that that's old magic for us and it's our comfort level, but as facilitators, bringing in the knowledge, experience that these young men have gone through. And so by naming it, for us to name it a group rather than a workshop / training, we want to at least use our vocabulary to start beginning the empowerment of what their experiences are, and that those experiences are valid and can add to the group conversation. And often what I've learned from Brian in this process of initiating and facilitating a group, we always begin with a check-in. And I'm sure you all have your own processes and the ways that you begin, end, or evaluate even these groups. But for us, or I speak for me, I found that starting in this group check-in allows the process for a bare minimum, the invitation for every participant to share their name and respond to the prompt. And wanting to name that as this is their group, they have every right not to participate if they aren't feeling it today. Whatever is going on before they got into the room has effects. So we want to also name that the check-in process is your opportunity to put your voice into the space. And after that, if you want to kick back, do that. Just ask, of course, but y'all probably have your own group agreements. We ask them, tooth of old. One is do you, meaning speak for you, speak for your experiences. And the second one is be patient, because other folks have their own experiences and stories to share as well. So in that group check-in process, I'll pass it back to Brian, kind of have him maybe walk us through the cards and the connection, or just a couple of the cards.
Sure. And yeah, just to flip back on something that Jeff said with that word group, I know just sharing personally, the last 5 years, I was always calling the Wise Guys either sessions or classes or workshops, or even that word group really shifts the energy. We do sit in circle unless there's a whiteboard needed or something like that. But so these cards were developed by a collaborative, probably 50 community partners that started meeting late 2016. What are the changes we want to see in our communities? And we use them on and off through the Wise Guys process, just to humanize it a little bit before we jump into hey, here's the 10 most effective types of contraception, like how are you feeling today? What are these things? I feel like in our conversation this morning that the first two, this one that's up now, and then Together We Are Stronger, really can bring about some deeper conversation, thinking about like not only what are my responsibilities as a man in my relationship, sexuality, my personal health, but really I love this idea of the future story of your people. What do you want for your people? Most of the young men and women that we work with through Wise Guys are from what we got like the most impacted communities. Our partners, Jeff will go through that in a little bit, but giving folks a chance to talk about who their people are, like the shoulders that they stand on, so to speak, or the history that they bring with them into the room, I think is really beautiful and opens up the heart space quite a bit to where we're no longer just trying to figure out, something mentally, but how can we be together in a different way. And who are your people? That could be a little more shallow, not even shallow, but surface level. Like skateboarders could be your people, punk rockers, like whoever it would be. I mean, you don't have to go anywhere deep. I think that's an important thing Jeff brought up. Like, really starting with do you. If they're not feeling depth on any given day, that's fine. But I'll flip through the rest of the cards just as I'm chatting. I won't read every single one off to y'all, but really believe that the more human we could start a group, the more change is possible. Talk a lot about it's nice to teach or mentor young men with new skills that we've learned over our lives. Of course, the medically accurate information that we want to pass along, that they have a right to, but also like, are we changing hearts at all? What's the motivation behind changing behavior? Especially, I mean, we talk about things like condom use and contraception, like knowing those things and still not having any respect or value for the women in your life isn't going to encourage you to protect yourself or work towards being a better partner. So